Okay. So, good evening, all. So, welcome you for the second session of the Six Sigma methodology. So, probably what we will revise what we have done in earlier session. So, we looked at why this methodology, different approaches to identify projects, and how Six Sigma methodology works. Now, during session 2, we'll actually get into the water to understand how the methodology works and how to exactly execute the methodology. So just a revision questions for session 1. What are the different steps in Six Sigma methodology? Anybody can take up the answer.
Sir,
There are 5 steps.
DMAC,
DMAC, yes.
define, measure, and
So define, measure, analyze, improve, and control.
Fine. So what is Y? We talked about an equation Y is equal to fx1, x2, x3, and xn. So what is Y called as?
Define and measure.
What is Y? Y called as?
So objective.
Objective or the effect. And what are the x's, x1, x2 called as? Causes. So basically the methodology, all the improvement methodologies, any you go for any improvement methodology, they work on an effect and cause basis, effect and cause. So what is the effect and what is the cause? So in an equation Y is equal to f x1, x2, x3, xn, we call it as an Y is an effect and x1, x2 are the reasons for that. Which organization started using Six Sigma methodology first?
Motorola.
Yes, right. And then who was the architect of Six Sigma methodology?
Bill Smith.
Bill Smith. Bill Smith is the wrong answer. Dr. Michael Harry is the architect of a methodology. Bill Smith was with him in a team. Bob Galvin and Bill Smith and Michael Harry were together. But actually, Michael Harry was a knowledgeable guy in statistics, and he built up a methodology, or he can be called as an architect of Six Sigma methodology. So with this small background and revision, we go to the next session. So what we'll look at? So we'll look at the define phase concepts today, project charter preparation, and we'll have some overview of a major phase. May not be able to complete the major phase, but let us see how much we can finish today, and we'll stop at 7. Okay. So as we have discussed earlier, so there are 5 steps. So we'll be looking at each step in detail now. So what is the first step is define define the problem in terms of what is wrong. So as I said earlier also, so at each step you will be answering 3 questions. So basically when you have to complete a Six Sigma project, you will be answering 15 questions. So we'll take up those questions one by one. So what is written in the block? You see on my slide, there are blocks also written as in step 1, step 2, step 3. And there are some sentences written outside the block. So typically what is written in the block is a Six Sigma language. And what is written out of the box is in layman's language. So what does my first step say? So identify project CTQ. So CTQ means what is critical to quality. It is nothing but what is important for your customer. Let us understand what is important for my customer, and then identify that or call it as an CTQ, what is critical to quality. Then once we know our CTQ, then develop a team charter. So when we develop a team charter, what we exactly do? What is my purpose and plan? That we write down on a paper and get it approval from my process owner, champion, etc., or the leadership team, so that my scope of the project is very clear and agreed by the leadership team. Then the third step is define the process map. Means I want to understand how does the process look like right now. So we also call it as an as-is process mapping. So let us start with the define phase. Hang ho gaya. 1 minute. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visual.
So and I'm not able.
Sir, put in.
Hmm? We are presenting to everyone. So why I'm not able to see that on screen?
No, sir.
Is my slide? Okay, chalo.
Yes, sir.
Hope the slide is visible.
Yes,
So here is a shot from a picture from a movie which was very popular in a few years back, which is called as an Hera Fairy. The character here is Babura Apte, and he often used to say his partners, that is Shetty and Akshay Kumar, that teri samasya kya hai boss. So exactly that is what we are trying to find out in our define phase. So for any business to happen, it should be based on everybody's needs. So we need a customer as well as a provider. So when you are a customer and go to a shop, what do you look for? So basically, when you as a customer you want to buy TV or car, something like that, you go and look at an on-time delivery, whether he will give service after the sales or not. What is the price for that TV and how is the quality of the TV. To fulfill these customer needs, what does the provider or a producer has in his control? Probably he has cycle times to control on-time delivery and service, cost to control price, and defects to control quality. So whenever we generally talk about a Six Sigma project, the CTQs mostly revolve around these three factors: cycle time, cost, and defects. We'll look at that internal customer, external customer, etc. But generally, these revolve around this. So there are customers of two types. There are two types of customer. One of the customer who looks for an effectiveness in your product. The effectiveness is what the degree to which you meet or exceed the customer needs and the requirements. And one customer who looks for an efficiency in your process. So the amount of resource consumed in the achieving effectiveness. So I will give you a simple example. You are not graduates, but when you will become a graduate, you will get a degree certificate, which is long and big. You must have seen of your elder brother, etc. So imagine that you have that big certificate, which is not of a normal size like A4 size. So it is longer and wider also. And with that longer and wider degree certificate, you went to a Xerox wala and ask him, give me a Xerox copy of this. So he gives you a Xerox copy, and after getting that Xerox copy, you find that the Vice Chancellor sign is missing. Now, when he gives you a copy, is he effective? No, because he has not met the requirements of the customer. So he is not effective. So by that time, you realize also that the Vice Chancellor sign is missing, and you say Xerox wala, "Arey baba, इसमें तो sign नहीं आया." तो Xerox wala was also kind enough, "अरे गलती हो गया, देखता हूँ करके." He takes back your wrong copy and do some adjustments and get you the copy which is perfect, and you see that everything is perfect, and you as an external customer, he is now effective. But when he was becoming effective, was he efficient? So who looks after that efficiency? So you as a customer, as long as he is charging you only 1 rupee for a Xerox, or nowadays it is 2 rupee for a Xerox, you are least bothered. Because in a first shot, he has not given you copy, but as you bring it to his notice that this sign is missing or something like that, he gives you another copy. You only waste the time, and he will charge you only for the one copy. You are happy. But during that, he has lost a paper, he has lost electricity, probably he has spent a lot of time, and he has lost potential customer also, because you are standing there. So somebody might have come and there are people here, so he might have gone to the next Xerox wala, etc., etc. So to understand in a better way, there are two types of customers. Who looks of an effectiveness is an external customer. So he has nothing to do how much resource you have used. Have you used two people, one people, or electricity, etc. But the efficiency is looked by an internal customer. So the Xerox owner probably is concerned why he has wasted paper, why he has wasted electricity, and why he has wasted his time also. So there are two types of customer: effectiveness, efficiency, internal customer and external customer. So, what are the examples of an internal customer? Downstream processes, leadership, shareholders are my internal customers. And what are the external customers? They are clients, end users, or the consumers, or regulators, or brokers can be called as an external customer. So, once you identify a customer, it is also important to understand the voice of a customer. So typically in a Six Sigma language, we call it what customer wants to say as in voice and customer. So voice of a customer is also of two types. It is a reactive approach or reactive systems and proactive systems. So when I say reactive, something has happened and then you come to know that this has happened and you probably you start a corrective action. And what is a proactive? Proactive can be called as a preventive action. So you proactively understand what is going to be tomorrow's need of a customer and proactively change your processes. That is what is a proactive approach. There are various ways to collect that. We'll come to that in few slides later. So once you have the needs of a customer, it is also it is important to understand what is the exact what are the category of a customer. So Dr. Kano has divided the needs of a customer in three categories. So he says there are three types of categories for a customer need. So let us understand that Kano model. So on your screen there are two arrows. One goes from and down to up, where I say it is talking about an customer satisfaction. So customer satisfaction low to high. And then there is another arrow which is called as can be called as an x-axis, where the quality attributes are absent to a present. So there are three types of categories of a customer need. So one of the category is called as a must be. So whenever you go and buy TV, so what is a must be category? That it should show me a picture. That is what is a must be for any TV. So if that must be is present as an attribute in your product, you are in the business. If that must be is not present in your product, you are not in the business. That is what is called as a must be. Now, if you typically look at the curve of the graph for a must be, so having a must be character, the customer satisfaction increases, but not from a non-satisfaction zone to a satisfaction zone. So typically, if you say the customer satisfaction having, if there is a must be character, the characteristics, the customer satisfaction increases, but not crossover from non-satisfaction zone to a satisfaction zone. That is very important. The next category is called as an satisfier or more the better. So when I say TV or car, so average, car average. So higher the better, higher the better. So if you have such a type of an characteristics which satisfies the customer or from non-satisfaction zone to a satisfaction zone, so it is called also called as a higher the better or more the better. So generally when we take up a Six Sigma projects, most of the projects are in this category, because must be there to remain in the business. But if you want to improve on that, there has to be something more the better, and generally the projects are taken in these category of customer needs. And there is third type of a category which is called a delighter or exciter. What is the main about delighter and exciter? You are already in a satisfaction zone, but that satisfaction booms up with this graph going still up. So what is not expected by a customer, and you have given him that which is called as a delighter. So it is very important to understand the customer need is of which category, and this situation is dynamic. So today, what is a delighter will not be a delighter tomorrow. So if you take on an example of an mobile phone, so few years back when the mobile business was started in the India, few years back, so that time the camera wasn't delighter for many of the phones or many of the customers. But now if you go and buy a phone, the camera is must be. So it is a dynamic situation. It may change over the years. It may change within a year, etc., etc. So you have to, whenever you understand the need, you have to understand whether this is which type of a need, must be, more the better, or a delighter type of a need. Once you understand, these are the few examples of various customer needs. Comfortable seat in airlines can be called as a must be or higher the better. Discount in tickets of the airlines, higher the better. Safe landing at destination, must be. ATM facility nowadays for any bank, it is must be. Big Bazaar discount scheme, it is higher the better. One-on-one t-shirt free can be called as an sometimes a delighter, or depends on the type of a t-shirt. Brand, if it is branded one, you can call it as a delighter, but if it is not branded one, you can call it as an higher the better. Holiday at Singapore with a Club Mahindra membership. It was a delighter few years back. So these are the examples to understand how you can categorize the needs of a customer. So coming back to the voice of customer, as I said earlier, there can be two types of information. One is a reactive source of information and other is a proactive source of information. So what are the reactive source of information? Customer complaint, help desk calls or emails, sales data, warranty claims, or product returns. So things have happened and the customer has a problem with the product and it reflects in this type of information. This is called as a reactive type of an approach. While what is called as a proactive source of information, just interview, focus group, survey, customer visit, and market research. So everything can be done to adopt this information proactively. So what is going to be a requirement of a market tomorrow? So understand that and make your processes and system plan upgrade to fulfill the needs of tomorrow. That is what is a proactive approach. So it is very important to understand the voice of a customer and to convert that voice of a customer to a control level factor, which is called as a CTQ. So let us look at a cinema example. So in the cinema example, suppose you are planning to go for a movie. On what criteria you will select? On what criteria you will select the movie? Just any responses? Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any responses? Somebody can say any response.
Entertaining.
Entertaining. Okay.
Creating.
Music,
Music.
story,
Yes.
Actors.
Story. Okay.
Based on the
Okay.
trailer of the movie.
Okay. So I have listed out few. I have listened to the few points which are different than what generally industrial people say, but it is interesting to understand the voice of the students also. That I have quoted few of them. So look at them. The review ratings for the movie. What is the star cast? Probably what is the subject? Who is the director? And what is the type of a film, whether it is an action film or comedy film or serious film or addressing some subject or issue in India or world, etc., etc. Probably that. So somebody says also music, etc. So I will note that and keep changing these needs. So this is what you are as a customer, you have stated these needs. Now, I ask you to change your role You are a cinema theater owner in Mumbai, and you are on a holiday to Singapore, and you ask your manager, you have a manager to look after the theater at Bombay, and you are enjoying your holiday in Singapore, and you are asking him to give a MIS every day morning. What you will ask for? Earlier case, you are a customer. Now you are owner now. So what you will ask for? Any responses?
The number of people who came to watch the movie.
Okay. Any other response? Only number of people. Chalo, let us see what I have put down. So as somebody has said, number of people. So I have put that as an occupancy percentage. So how much was the occupancy last day? So any safety or incident which has happened in our premises, which is of a concern, then probably he will ask also what is our next plan. So abhi kya chal raha hai aur aage kya hone wala hai. So he will also ask what is our yesterday's operating cost. So his mind is to whether it was a profitable business yesterday or not. Or he can also ask what is the equipment operating status, so whether all the equipments are running, all the ACs are running, etc., etc. Now, if you look in both of this, if you look at what are the customer needs are and what is owner is looking for, there is a total mismatch in this. So owner is thinking something different, and customer is something looking for something different. So probably only the next plan addresses all the customer issues. Otherwise, everything is different. So what is important that what is the voice of a customer has to be converted to a controllable factor, which is called as CTQ. And there is one tool which does this job is called as a quality function deployment. It translates or converts the voice of a customer to a CTQ by calling it what to how. So it is also called as an house of quality vagare vagare. And there is a detail, you can have a detail 1 day session or 1 hour session on this, how the quality function deployment exactly works, etc. So most of the automotive industry as an market research work using this quality function deployment. So what are the needs of a customer, and those needs of a customer are related to how or how we can fulfill those needs, what's. And then they take up a project in that area to improve house, so that, but it has to be related from what to how, and then based on that the how can be used more, or the process or the attribute can be more improved, so that it has a relation with the customer satisfaction. The tool is called as a function quality function deployment. So once you have a CTQ, we move to a charter. So what is a charter is? The charter is basically clarifies what is expected of a project team. So whatever problem has been given to you, and it clearly clarifies what is expected out of a project team. Keep the team focused and aligned with the project priorities. Transfer the project from champion to the improvement team. So basically, the improvement team gets an project, charter completed by a champion. That is what is the theory of the process is. Because the champion or the process owner has to say, or a production manager who is working on the shop floor has to say that I want this improvement, and then he tells you everything. They improve this machine efficiency or yield of this machine, etc. Or this is your scope, this is your team, and so on. And he understands the big picture and then gives you a project. The project leader only use the tools to improve the process and then hand it over to wapas to champion or a process owner. That is what is the theory. But you as a process owner, once the project, you as a project leader, once the project is given to you, you write down a charter and get it approved from a champion, process owner, or a business leader, whoever is concerned with that project. That is most important at any phase, that is very important as far as the Six Sigma methodology review is concerned. signed by champion, the project manager, and the Six Sigma consultant. So once you know CTQ, you start writing a charter. So charter has got 6 elements. So business case, what is problem and goal statement, what is benefit of the project, project scope, roles and responsibilities, and milestones. So let us look at all these 6 aspects one by one. So when I say business case, I've been saying you from last session, that is, please confirm whenever you get a project, please confirm that how this work is related to the business objective or vision of the organization or goal of an organization head, etc. That is nothing but an business case for the project. Why I should be doing this project? One must understand, and it has an alignment with a business objective or a business goal. That is important, and you write down that in 4 lines English at the left corner of the charter. I will share you how the charter looks like with an example, but the business case is just a English in 4 lines why this project need to be done. So why is the project worth doing? Why it is important to do it now? What are the consequences of not doing it? Suppose you are doing any safety or environment related project, and if you don't do that environment related project, it may happen that your factory will be closed down by an environment board. So what are the consequences of not doing it? What are the other areas of priorities? As we have seen, there are other priorities, and you are identified using a priority matrix this type of this project on a priority with some number, etc., and you are taking up that project. So are you really clear about this, that this is the priority and this comes first for my boss or organization, etc., etc.? How it is linked with the business goal? That is, in short, why I am doing this project. So once you have been given project, it is better to understand what is the metric for it, and if it is not measurable, how can we measure? That is what is a fundamental of Six Sigma. If you can represent that in numbers, you will be able to control that, and if you are able to control that, you will be able to improve that. That is what Lord Kelvin says. Once you have that as a metric, you write down a problem statement. So what is a problem statement? What is not meeting our customer needs? So the customer may be internal or external. He will talk about a poorly performing process. So what is exactly wrong, not meeting the customer needs? When and where the problem occurs, and how big is the problem? That means what is actual quantity or baseline of the project, and you have taken the sample of from your population. So just to verify whether that sample represents the population or not, that is what is a problem statement. Once you have a problem, how much are the numbers at the baseline? You derive at a goal. So what is generally goal called as? Goal called as is a SMART statement. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So these are the SMART are the, you can call it as a SMART for a problem or goal statement. So once you get a problem, generally how to select the goal is also a question for many of the project leaders. So there are 3 basic ways to select the goal statement or a goal. What can be a goal for this? So once you have a baseline data for your project, based on that baseline data, you can identify what is entitlement in the process. So when I say entitlement is what is best achieved by the process, and the best achieved in that process can be taken up as an target to achieve it on a consistent basis. That is one of the criteria for selecting a goal statement. Then second criteria can be what is the benchmark for the process. So if suppose I want to fulfill some criteria, I want to get admission in NIT or IIT. So how much marks I should score? Although it is not an entitlement in the process, I need to score more than 90, etc. can be a benchmark. What others are doing, and if I want to do that, what should be my process output? And based on that, you take a goal statement. And there is a third criteria which is called as a design. So what is the design of the process? So you have set up a plant or a reactor which is expected to give you an 100 metric ton output per day, and you from a process you are able to get only 92 or 93 metric ton of an production. Then it becomes mandatory for you to take a 100 and then project and understand that why I'm not getting, although I have designed it for a process. So the goals can be decided based on three criteria. Of course, it is theory, entitlement in the process, what is the benchmark of the process, what others are doing, what other organizations are doing, and third, what is the design of the process. But generally, in a practical way, the goal is given by a champion or a process owner. So whenever a process owner or champion gives you a project, he tells you, yes, you improve the efficiency or yield or output of the reactor, and I want yield to be 93% or etc. etc. So he gives you a number that what should be the goal of this project, and that is how generally goal comes. But based on the three criteria, you can also negotiate with the champion or brought to his notice. If he is having a data orientation, he may agree for your suggestions to have a project goal based on the entitlement basis or something other. So once you have, hello?
I had a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Six Sigma practitioners do statistical analysis for improving the process, and then
Yes.
they hand over the project to the process owner to complete it, right?
Yes.
So why in the first place do they need the permission of process owner to start a problem?
First page, you improve any process and that is not satisfying the process owner's need. And you come to know after improving or doing all phases of the project, what is the use of that? So you have been given a project. Suppose you are a chemical engineer. So I tell you as a process leader, I want the output of the reactor to be this much, etc. etc. So it is better to understand what he wants as a customer wants. So process owner and the champion also indirectly your customers. They are giving you a project. They are giving you an area what to improve. That is why.
Okay.
Okay. So hope I have cleared the doubt.
Yes, sir.
So once you have goal statement, then it is very important to understand what are the benefits from the project. So basically what you have written in a business case in English has to be converted into numbers in this point. So you will say the sales will improve, etc., etc. The revenues will improve, or costs will reduce, etc., etc. So you have to convert that into a numbers when you are calculating actually the benefit calculation. So the benefits can be tangible, intangible, or it can be also called as a hard or soft. So when I say tangible, the benefits should reflect directly in the books of accounts, and the finance guy should be able to verify that using some method. That is what I say when I say tangible. So generally in a Six Sigma methodology, that is also one of the aspect of an Six Sigma methodology, that each and every project has to be approved by a finance head for the benefits. That is very important and which is stressed in Six Sigma project. So generally whenever we take up any projects in an industry, on a manufacturing plant, etc. So whenever a project charter is written by, approved by even a plant manager or somebody, we always take on concurrence as a quality head from finance, that whether he has calculated these numbers which are right, or method of calculating the numbers is right or not. So this is a fundamental thing which is stressed in Six Sigma, that the finance has to verify the numbers if the project is tangible or hard saving project. So there are also can be a projects which are intangible or soft saving. So look at this means I am conducting so many sessions for industries, or I am also conducting, everything is money. So I am spending my time, the employees who join, suppose I am conducting one session for a Reliance Retail, and I am spending my time, people are also attending and understanding how Six Sigma methodology works. Now, as a result of that, once I complete the training, I cannot claim after the training that I have saved so many rupees, lakhs rupees for an retail. So it has to, that is what is called as an intangible benefit, a capability improvement, or soft skill improvement, or process has become fast, cycle time has been reduced. So those are called as an intangible benefits. But the money or the savings, like revenue increase, cost reduction, that directly reflects in books of accounts, and finance guy is able to verify that, are called as intangible or hard projects. So once you also verify the project's benefits, we generally form a team based on the RB model. So what is this RB called as? So A is an approver of the team. So you are a project leader, you identify that to get done so much of output in a reactor, I need to adjust the parameters of a reactor like this. Now for that, you may not be in an authoritative position to conduct those trials at your level, or you may not be in an authoritative position to ask other shift engineers also to maintain the temperature at this level. So there has to be somebody who is an approver for that, and who will say, go and implement that, I am with you, and also he will take care, and he will write down instruction to all other shift engineers also, that you maintain the reactor temperature to this level, as it is one of the observation that it has an impact with an productivity of the reactor. So who is an approver, who will take decision to implement that, is approver. He may be a champion, he may be a process owner, he may be a sponsor, or he may be a business leader. So you have to take him along with you when you write a charter as a process owner or champion. Then only your project is going to be implemented. Otherwise, it will be only an academic study which is done theoretically. So what is important is to convert that observation into action. The approver is important. The second is a resource. So many of the times people have an expertise on the process, and you have to understand in the industry that who is having an expertise in the process, or who can help me to give best clues to improve the process, and you take him along with you in a team, which is a resource. Then third can be a member kind of a person. He will help you in data collection, or when you are on the leave, he will try to implement, or he will oversee whether all the actions are being implemented. Otherwise, he will call you and say, we decided as a part of a project to do this thing, and these are not being done by somebody, etc., etc. So he's a member. Of course, it is not like that Harbhajan Singh cannot bat, but when you are going for a team selection, you should have some broad view about what he will do in your project. Like if a cricket team has to be selected by Indian selecting team, they have an idea who will be my two openers, who will be middle order batsmen, who are all rounders, who are spinners, or exclusively bowlers, like that. So bowlers can also bat, but their major responsibility and roles have thought of when they are forming a team. That is what is important. Then there is also part which is called as an interested party, informed party, or influencing party. All the three are applicable for any project. This is again to select a team based on the army model is something not technical, which is a soft skill which is required by a leader. or a champion or thought process has to go but why it is important, the project cannot be executed only based on a technical knowledge. In an industry, the soft skills are required, where you get a buy-in from the team to implement the project, and where that is where exactly it is important that we are not interested only having a theoretical study, but we are interested in implementing the solution and improving the process or getting the results out of it. So to give an example about interested party, influencing party. So interested party is, if suppose you are doing some changes in packing. So you have a product and you pack that and send it to customer. Now a marketing guy will always have an interest. He may not be having any role, but he will always have an interest what changes you are doing in packing, and with that packing, whether the damages will increase, the customer will complain about it, etc. That is what I mean by interested party. To give you an example of an influencing party, suppose you oversee or you thought that I need to change something in my process, IT process. I require an expert guy who is best in IT. So probably while forming a team, you will also take up IT head as a champion of your project. That is how it works. And if you have to give an overall view and understand that what are the needs for the project, and then come to a team selection. So once you have team also, then we go for a milestone. So in a typical process, the Six Sigma methodology, where toll gate reviews are being conducted. That is what is a GE process is. So at the end of every defined phase, there will be a review what you have done in a defined phase, then move to. So whether you have really answered these 3 questions, yes, then go for a major phase. So answer 3 questions, go for an analyze phase, answer 3 questions, like that. So whether you are really answered those 3 questions correctly, and is that a right way, which is approved by a process owner, champion and sponsor, and then you can go ahead. That is what is in milestones. So this is how typically the project charter looks like. So project charter has got 6 characteristics. I said business case, problem, goal statement, benefits, scope of the project, team, and the timelines. So let us look at this project of an reduced electricity consumption. This is our domestic electricity consumption. So electricity bill is paid by everyone, and one of the main expense done during every month. So any reduction in electricity consumption will directly save the money. That is what is the business case, why I am doing this project. So it can be for in your case, it can be other cases also. You can take up as a canteen spend, any other consumptions or any other expenses which you are incurring. So what is the problem and goal statement? So whenever we talk about or we think of an electricity bill, it always strikes to our mind is rupees per month. Now it is very important to take up a CTQ or unit of the project where exactly the work will reflect. So for an example, you take up a project with an rupees per month, but you actually work on the units. You reduce the units, but what happened later, the electricity board has changed the tariff and your rupees per month remains as it is. So your work has really not reflected or improved the CTQ, or really not reflected in the project. So what is important that you select a CTQ or unit such that where your work will reflect. So although we get a bill in rupees per month, we control units, so it is better to take up a project in units per month. Now units per it is better that you slice it to a smallest fraction of the data collection. So units per month is always a better way, but the units per day will be the best CTQ for this type of a project. Why there is an advantage? Because if you decide to take a count every day, you are also getting a feedback you have a feedback mechanism in place which gives you a feedback of your work on a regular basis. So what is the disadvantage in taking it up month? You have done something to improve a process. It may happen after a month long. It will be a postmortem that you understand that after a month's time that's this has not worked. But if it is a units per day, on a third day you will understand that whether this is helping or not helping, or whether to continue with this action or you have to change your action or look for a different action. So that is how it is. So if you look at the problem statement, so how the problem statement for a Six Sigma project is written down. The number of units used for the period of January 9 to April 9. Now when I say January 9 to April 9, is a sample data of an population. So I need to confirm that whether these months represent the entire population, and I can take that as a baseline. That is very important. And if that is okay, that is why I say it has to be approved by a champion and process owner. He should agree that this is a perfect baseline you have taken. Otherwise, what will happen? You take up a electricity consumption project in a months of winter or in a season of winter, and or you take up a project in other way around. You take up a project in a month of a summer, and you close the project as an improvement in the month of a winter. That is not justifies the improvement. That is why whenever you select the sample, is that sample is representative or not, has to be agreed by a process owner that yes, this is a representative one. Now if you look at the there are many parameters or key performance indicator for the business which are running low due to COVID situation or lockdown situation in India or worldwide. Now suppose if you take up a project during the COVID period and it improves as soon as the COVID situation will get relaxed or we overcome this situation, it will come back to a normal, cannot be called as a project. That is what is my stress is. So the baseline what you say has to be representative of population, and that has to be agreed by your process owner and champion. Once you have that, you straight away write down the goal is to reduce to 40 units by December. So time bound, relevant, attainable. So all that smart which has been written comes or reflects into your problem and goal statement. You can combine problem and goal statement also, or write it separately also. So here when you write down a problem or goal statement, do not write this will be done by doing this. So typically how will you do it? So we call that as a problem, but here what we are talking about is an effect and cause relationship. So whenever you are writing a charter, your focus is only on Y, effect. So this is where we are locking the effect, we are locking the Y, and from analyze phase we will go towards the X. As we start process mapping, we will go towards the X, but ultimately here the entire focus of define and measure phase is on Y. Okay, so once you get a goal and you have a baseline which is approved by them, you can very well calculate how much I have saved. Now coming to a scope of the project, which is very important in any Six Sigma project, and it has been a primary focus of Six Sigma projects. This is also one of the point which is stressed in Six Sigma project. Any other methodology do not stress this much. So whenever you want to improve anything, there are two ways of improving it. A process. So a process, what is wrong with the process, you improve the process. And two, the other second thing is what are inputs which are coming to the process and affecting the output. So it may happen that your process is perfect, but the inputs which are coming to the process making output bad. So when we are scoping the project, we are perfectly identifying that when we say the process starts with and process ends with are the physical boundaries of the process. So what is the process? So in this process, we generally say it starts with my meter and it ends with then consumption of electricity. So anything which is happening before my meter, somebody taps, take a tapping before my meter, I'm really not concerned about that in this project. And the second point, which is what are the in scope and out scope. So what are the inputs which are coming to the process and affecting my output. So as it is an electricity consumption project, as you all understand, if you have festival days like Diwali, Ganpati, etc., so Maharashtrians will appreciate why the consumption goes up in Ganpati. So if you have a Diwali festival or some festivals like that, so are you going to take those festival days in scope or out scope? So upfront, you have to declare that, yes, I am going to keep my festival days out scope. And all other days, all normal days other than my festival days are my in scope. So my basic responsibility is to reduce my electricity consumption on normal days. Don't ask me anything about the festival days. So once you say that, you need to go back to your problem statement also. When you are calculating a baseline, please try to avoid what you have scope here. And that is why I said the champion and the process owner has to agree on this. What you out scope has to be agreed by him, and what is to be included has to be agreed by him. So some process leader may think of that. No, I want all the days, even the festival day is also included, should be included in the project. So you need to look at that festival days also in a different manner. That is what is when I say in scope, out scope. Then the next part, which is very important, which is also thrust area of an Six Sigma. What are your constraint CTQs or secondary CTQs? So the secondary CTQs, which is I have written in a red, like I have written in a problem and goal statement, do not write how you will do it. So here also I have written in the red the way it should not be done. Now typically, if in this electricity consumption project, now during analysis, I understand that the clothes are being pressed at home. And as a bright idea, I came out with an idea and started giving those clothes to the dhobi or etc., laundry. So will that typically reduce the consumption or not? But it should not be done that way. So what is my constraint CTQ? Is my laundry bill or my medical bill is my constraint CTQ, and that has to be remain constant. That is what is my idea is. When means what if I am improving something, it should not happen that I hamper the other process. So if I want to increase productivity, my quality should remain constant, my cost of raw material should remain constant, etc., are the goals. So that is how you have to achieve it. The way it should not be done, that is what is called as a constraint or secondary CTQ. The process impacted is typical consumption process, because it is upon a monthly consumption process. And the point which I am stressing in business why impacted, what you have written in a business case in English has to be said as an why, big why impacted. So I have written that as an main letter of big why. So big why, small and big. So I have written in why there is big. So whenever we say big why, generally organization are having few big whys which are already stated, that increase revenue, reduce cost, then improve yield, improve productivity, or improve customer satisfaction, improve employee engagements, etc., are the big whys. So you have to list down to that which big why in a business case it is related to. That is what I mean by big why. Obviously, this is a cost reduction project which is related to big why. So team can be formed. One who leads the project can be called as a big green belt or a black belt. So depending on the size of the project, generally when you have a wing-to-wing project or end-to-end process project, we call it as a black belt project. And one big black belt project can be split down into 3-4 green belt projects. That is okay. But what is important is all this charter has to be approved by a process owner and the champion. That is very most important. And typically, if you look at the timelines, the define should take 1 week, the major will take another week. If you have a data ready with you, if the data is not ready, then you may have to go back and make a data collection plan. And after making the data collection plan, you may complete a define and measure phase because you don't know the baseline data, and to understand and agree on a baseline data, that is what is an objective of and define and then measure phase. Then a typically analyze phase, you have a potential excess, and screening those excess will take some time. So it can be called as in 6 to 8 weeks. And once you get to know the reasons, then you improve and control. Now again, if you look at here, if you have a feedback mechanism or your CTQ on a monthly basis, then obviously to sustain that improvement, you will have to establish that it has improved for at least 3 months, and your project may get unnecessarily prolonged. But if it is on daily data, so if you have improved within 30 days or a month, you can prove that, yes, now look at this, these are the 30 data points where my unit consumption has reduced. So that is how it is very important to go for the smallest level of data, so that your feedback mechanism will be fast and you will be able to complete the project. So this is for the charter, and it is very important to write down the charter of any improvement. So you will join any organization, take up any improvement method. So whenever you get a project, it is very important to write down a charter in this fashion, and to understand and have approval from a process owner or champion. Any doubts on a charter? Any conceptual clarity or something like that for a charter? No response. If there are no doubts, we go move to the third question of the define phase. That is, how does my process look like? In short, that is also called as a process mapping. So what are the objectives of process mapping? So what is an actual process versus a documented process? So you are not since you are not work in the industry, so you will not appreciate that there many times the documented process is different than an actual process. So what we are really interested in when we are mapping a process for a project, we are interested in understanding what is an actual process. Then second objective can be value-added activity versus non-value-added activities. So whenever any activity is performed, whether it adds value or produces waste, so the non-value added activity can produce a waste which is of 7 types. We'll look at that when we go to an analyze phase, what are the different types of waste. And I will also give, but this is value-added activity and non-value activity is generally performed for a transactional processes. And based on the transactional processes, I will also give you questionnaire that you ask 10 or 11 questions for this particular activity and come out with the solution, whether this is needed or not needed, or can you do some changes for this activity. That we will understand when we go to an analyze phase or go for an to-be process map. So how to develop a to-be process map? So at this moment, we are only talking about the process map as is process map. So there is a third type of input which is called as the process inputs and outputs. So what are the inputs which are coming to the process and what are the effects of that? So the process map can be demonstrated at 3 levels. One is called as a macro level map, process flow diagram, and detailed input output worksheet. You must be aware about the word process flow diagram since you are students of an engineering college or engineering class. So you must be aware about the process flow diagram. What is it? So we'll look at the process map. In short, whenever you get a project, you have scope the project, where does the process start and where does the process ends. Now, as a process mapping exercise, you are supposed to walk through that process, means understand each and every step in that process. That is what is walkthrough of the process. So as said, process mapping is at 3 levels. So first level is called as a business level, which is also called as a helicopter view of the process or a macro view of the process. So macro view, when I say macro view or helicopter view, it is a big picture of the business or big picture of the process. It is generally done using a SIPOC model. We'll understand that what is SIPOC model as when we consider the macro view process in detail. Then the second part is an operational focus. So from a big picture of a business, we come to an operational level, like we have seen in a business process management, business level CTQ or business level KPI, operational level KPI, and then a process level KPI. So process flow diagram is an operational level. Okay? And then we come to a next step, which is called a process step, or detail about the people, method, material, information, specifications, inputs which are going to the process, and whether it has an effect on output or not. That is what we will try to understand. As you can see in the picture, at the operation level, we are going to inspect our process very minutely. And as it is very clear that once you come down from an helicopter to an actual process, it will increase the details, and the input-output worksheet will be a detailed one. So let us start with the SIPOC. So what is the SIPOC says? There is a process, there is the input which are coming to the process, and for that inputs, few suppliers which are responsible. And there is an output from a process, and there are customers from the process. So process is at the center. When you say scope of the process, you are trying to where the process starts and where the process ends is this part. And where you say in scope, you probably also will talk about the various inputs which you are going to consider. And out scope, these are the inputs which are not going to be considered. That is what is the meaning of an in scope and out scope of the process. And the physical movement of a process is from supplier to a customer. It is also called as an COPIS model because the thinking should come from a customer to a supplier, or the business processes generally comes from a customer to a supplier. To give you an example, now you suppose somebody, any businessman who wants to set up any chemical plant, suppose Mukesh Bhai Ambani wants to set up another refinery in India. So what he will look for? So he will first look for whether there are customers for this. So if there are customers, how much output they will take. Depending on that output, he will probably decide the process, collaborators, etc., etc. And once he decides the process, he will decide what are the inputs required and who will be the vendors or the suppliers for that. So physically, the process moves from a supplier to customer, but thinking or a business process runs from a customer to a supplier. That is what is a micro map. The next step is to have a process flow diagram. The process flow diagram simply looks like an activities which are arranged one after the other showing arrow. So what is the concept of the process? What is the realities of the process, and what you want to convert ideally is to this. You need to, when we are developing a to-be process, we will try to bridge that gap from a reality to an ideal situation. That is what is called as an improvement of the process or visualizing a to-be process. You can very well visualize once you map what is an as-is process flow diagram. So once you write down an as-is process diagram, the next step is to what are the inputs which are coming to the process. So you can also investigate, or depending on the types of inputs or various inputs at each step, or what is required by the next step. That also can be done as we map our process flow diagram. So the types of inputs can be mapped on the raw material, equipment, utilities, human resource, etc., etc. So once you understand that at 3 level, micro level, process flow diagram and input output worksheet, we actually go to the process of making tea. So let us understand the tea making process at all these three levels. So let us make a tea. So what is the first phase? Is a micro map. So micro map is a business view where you have a tea preparation process and you have listed down all the inputs which are coming to a tea preparation process and suppliers of it. And you have also listed down all the outputs, means you consider tea as well as waste, because you have to have a plan also to how to get rid of the waste, or how to be an environmental friendly to treat that waste, etc. So there are the outputs which are cup of tea and waste, and who are the customers also you are identified. This is what is called as a micro map of the process. What is next step is having a process flow diagram. So actually how the process, tea making process takes place, that is you have written down in the form of an activity. So take a utensil, pour the quantity of water, put on the gas, add sugar. You want ginger or masala, yes or no, you take a decision on that. Then boil the mixture, add tea powder, then keep it boiling for 5 to 7 minutes, filter the mixture, pour milk in it and serve hot. This is how the process flow goes for a tea making process. Now what is the next step is to look at the inputs and outputs of the machine. Inputs of the process. So you can look at the inputs based on the categories. So raw material. So what are the raw materials which are coming to the process, and do they have any impact on the taste of the tea? Now, idea when you are mapping a process is to collect the potential excess. Don't give a brainstorm, or don't say that this is not useful X or this is an impactful S. You will decide that only when you analyze the situation using a statistical tools and arrive at that critical excess. So idea of process mapping is doing an IO worksheet, is input output worksheet, is to understand the potential excess. So you have slowly started your analyze phase also of identifying the potential excess. So it is very important that you identify all the potential excess on the top of the funnel. Then only you will be able to screen the proper reason. Otherwise, if you don't pick up the reason, it may happen that you have missed out that reason during a process map, and you will not get the answer at all while completing the project. So whether water makes a difference for my tea taste, milk makes a difference for my tea taste, or sugar will make a difference for my tea taste, that is what is, or tea makes a difference for my tea taste. This is what is as far as the raw materials are concerned. The next part is a utensil, equipment or utensils. So whether the change in utensil, if I use aluminum, copper or stainless steel utensil, will that make a difference in tea taste? If you feel yes, you take it as a potential X, don't verify it. But if you fail, it is absolutely not possible, so you can reject the X. So idea is to collect the potential excess. So can heating device make the change tea taste? If yes, call it as a potential X. Filter size, life of the filter size, etc. Then SOPs, the standard operating procedure, when to add sugar, how much time to boil, how to understand that it has boiled, when to add milk, etc., are process or procedure related issues. Then how you verify or how you standardize that everybody who is making tea follows this standard procedure, and if that standard procedure is not followed, is that making an impact on the tea taste? If that is making an impact on the tea taste, let us call it as an potential X. So ultimate objective of all collecting or writing the process steps in detail is to understand the process and also understand what are the factors which are making impact on my Y, and call that as an potential X. So the process mapping also can be done in a manner which is called as a swim lane process, swim lane map. So why this is called as a swim lane law? It is a process flow diagram, but is also called as a swim lane map. Why? Because there are various departments involved in the organization, and they are performing the activities. That is why it is mapped in their lane. Like in a swimming competition, the swimmer only swims in his own lane, and he is not allowed to cross over the lane and go to the next lane and swim. That is how all these functions in organizations are doing work in their own lanes. That is why it is called as a swim lane map. Now, a swim lane map can be done using a software which is called as a Visio. So it is available generally. So if you download Visio, you can try out. There is various symbols which will automatically come, and you can develop a swim lane map of any process. So it is just an example of process flow diagram of organizing a meeting. So there are various steps in organizing the meeting. So which are the important phase? At the point 16 step, you actually start the meeting, but other 15 steps are before starting the meeting. So you can very well map this. Even conducting this training session, identifying people, nominations of students, organizing a faculty, deciding a time is also a process, and that can be mapped to improve if we find that it is producing or giving us defects. So it is entire a map which is done to look at what are the potential causes of the problem, and we try to find out potential causes. I think we should stop here with a define phase today. So primarily what we have done, we have answered 3 questions in define phase. What is the need of a customer, and who is my customer? Once I collect the voice of a customer, I convert that voice of a customer to a controllable factor which is called as a CTQ. Once I know the CTQ, I write down a charter for that, and there are 6 elements in the charter, and I close that charter with the approval of champion and process owner, and then I take a next step. So how does my process look like? And when I am doing a process map, I identify all the potential excess when I am mapping a process. So at activity level or at input level or input or at all activity levels, so that I understand what is the need of a next process or a customer, what is the next process as a customer wants. And once we collect those potential excess, then we will take them to analyze phase to understand which are the vital facts. So we'll stop here for a define phase today. So any doubts? Will you be able to write down a charter of your own projects? So are you having a projects? Yes. So have you taken up the projects or not? Are you been assigned any project or any improvement area to work with?
No, sir.
No,
In
not.
our internships, yes.
Okay. So if you have been assigned any project, just try to fill in the charter of your project so that you understand the project better, and then means you finalize what is your plan for this project. That is what is most important part of any Six Sigma project. If a project is defined correctly, there is a high likely chance the project will get success. But if it is defined ambiguously, it may happen that it will not, you will have problems when you analyze because the project is defined ambiguously. So it is very important to have an clarity on the project. So anything else, any conceptual clarity or anything you would like to ask? So if you don't have any doubts, anyway, I will send you this presentation. You can go through that and then come back with the doubts. If there are no doubts, then I think we can call it a date for today. And we take up major phase next time. Will that be okay?
Anybody have any doubts? Anyone have any doubts?
Doubts or clarity required, something is not understood, etc., etc.
Sir,
Yes.
so in the electricity reduction example,
Yeah.
there were like in the financial benefits, tangible and intangible. So can you explain that again?
Yes. So tangible benefit or hard benefit which directly reflects in a books of accounts, which is called as a tangible benefit or hard benefit. So everything is money. So you may say that the employee capability has gone up, the customer satisfaction has increased. Now, can you directly write down into books of accounts how much is the customer satisfaction gone up, has given money? Then it is called as intangible benefit or a soft benefit. Of course, it is not like that. It is not important. If the customer satisfaction goes up, he may come back as a repeat customer to you. So as a part of a project, you must be able to prove that my sales data has gone up, or my a particular customer where his satisfaction has gone up and it has reflected in his ordering quantity, etc., etc., by seen, visualized, or seen by a finance guy, so that it called as a tangible benefit.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, hope it is clear. Okay.
Anybody have any more doubts?
Everything is money.
Sir,
Yes.
I think no one have any doubts, so we can
Okay.
conclude the session.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving your precious time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.